He didn't move. He didn't open his eyes. He didn't react to touch, light, or anyone's voice. To the hospital staff, he was just another patient in a coma. A silent, motionless man, stuck between life and death in a hospital bed at the end of the corridor, under the intermittent hum of machines that seemed more alive than he was. But to her, he was something more. His name was kept secret. Officially, he was referred to only as Patient 144B. Approximate age, 56. Medical condition, stable but unconscious. No one knew who he was. There were no visitors. No registered family. No friends who called. Nothing but a lonely man with a refined appearance, gray hair, manicured hands, and an expensive suit neatly folded in the closet. But Clara, the 26-year-old nurse who had just joined the team, soon sensed that there was something unusual about that room. From the first day she started caring for him, something prevented her from treating him like the others. There was a silence in there that wasn't empty. It was dense. Present. As if time had stopped the moment she set foot in that room. And as much as she knew that comatose patients were unlikely to be conscious, Clara felt that he heard her. He felt her. She was kind. She took care of him as she would someone dear to her. Even without any return, even without any response. She calmly changed his clothes, adjusted his pillows, carefully cleaned the corners of his eyes, massaged his hands. And while she did all this, she talked. She talked as if he were awake. She told him about her day. About life outside. About her co-workers. Sometimes she even sang softly to herself, whatever song was in her head. It was almost a secret routine. An invisible bond between her and that man who didn't know it existed, or at least, that's what everyone thought. And before continuing, if you've made it this far, subscribe to the channel. Because this story is just beginning. And when you find out what this man heard, and what he did next, you'll understand why some truths only come out in silence. Click there, activate the bell, and hold on tight, because the next scenes will keep you hooked until the very last second. In the early days, Clara tried to convince herself that she was just being professional. But something about his presence there became more intimate. Not in a romantic way, not yet, but emotionally. She liked being there. In that room. Next to that man who didn't respond, but seemed, somehow, present. And then, one day, something changed. Clara arrived early for her shift. She was visibly shaken. Her red eyes revealed that she had been crying. She didn't try to hide it. She entered the room with slow steps and slumped shoulders. She placed her clipboard on the corner table, took a deep breath, and said, "Today I almost quit. Can you believe that?" Silence. "Yeah, of course you don't believe me. You don't even know who I am. But I needed to talk to someone. And, strange as it may seem, you're the only person I feel really listens to me." She sat down on the chair next to the bed. Her teary eyes began to overflow. "Today Dr. Marcos humiliated me in front of everyone. Over something silly. And no one said anything. Not even Laura, who always says she'll defend me. You know when you feel like you're all alone. Completely." She sniffed, wiped her face, and continued. "I keep asking myself, what would you do? Because when I look at you, I'm sure you were once someone important. I don't know why, but there's something about you. Even lying there. Your face, your posture. As if you were just waiting for the right moment." She laughed through her tears. "Maybe I'm going crazy. Talking to someone who can't hear me. Or can you?" His eyes, as always, were closed. The machines beeped steadily. But for the first time, she felt something different. A kind of chill that didn't come from the cold air conditioning or fear. It came from within. Clara looked at him more closely. She touched his hand, as she always did, but this time she squeezed it a little harder. "I just wanted someone to see me. Someone to really listen to me." She lowered her head, ashamed of her own fragility. She was silent for a few seconds, then whispered almost as if it were a secret. "There's something I've never told anyone. Not even my mother." Pause. "I've thought about disappearing. Really. I've looked at the clock and imagined what it would be like to catch the last train of the night, aimlessly, with no destination. Far away from everything. From everyone. Sometimes. I feel so small in this world. So invisible. So forgotten." She cried silently. But beside her, the impossible happened. For less than a second, perhaps she imagined it, the patient's eyelid fluttered. It was quick, subtle, but real. Clara wiped her eyes, got up, and went to the machine. She checked the signs. Everything was normal. But something inside her, at that moment, changed. As if she had crossed an invisible line between the professional and the personal. Between caring and trusting. From that day on, Clara began to share more. To reveal more. Her traumas. Her pains. Her dreams. Her disappointments with her absent father. Her fear of never being recognized. And most intimate of all, the story she had kept hidden for years, how she had suffered emotional abuse at her old job, how she had trusted someone who destroyed her self-esteem, how she tried to smile every day, even when the world told her to give up. She thought she was venting to the void. To the silence. But what Clara never imagined, was that he was listening to everything. Patient 144B, as he was known in the hospital, was not in a deep coma as they said. He was in a state that medicine defines as hidden consciousness. He listened. He felt. He thought. But he couldn't react. His body didn't respond. And every word she said was like a light shining through darkness that seemed eternal. Clara's voice was his only connection to the real world. And day after day, she not only kept him alive, she made him want to come back. The medical team continued to act normally. The tests were stable. No visible changes. But inside that man whom no one knew, something was building up. A desire to respond. To come back. To thank her. And above all, to protect Clara. Because he also had a secret. He wasn't an ordinary patient. He was, in fact, one of the richest and most influential men in the country. But he had chosen to disappear. Chosen to pretend. And now, listening to that young nurse pour her heart out every day at his side, something inside him was changing. And when he finally reacted, nothing would ever be the same again. Clara didn't know it, but at that very moment when she left patient 144B's room that night, something inside him finally gave way. A tiny wave of excitement ran through his spine. An electric spark crossed the synapse that had seemed dormant for months. And for the first time, an impulse left his mind and tried to reach his body. His big toe moved. Imperceptibly. Alone. But real. The beginning. The next morning, Clara arrived early, as usual. The hallway was quiet, the air colder than usual. She pushed the door open carefully and smiled automatically. "Good morning," she said. "Ready for another day of pretending you can't hear me?" She laughed at her own comment and walked over to the bed. That's when she saw it. The sheets were slightly out of place. Nothing glaring. Nothing that would catch the average eye. But she knew every detail of that space. She felt it before she even thought it. And then, as she got closer, she realized, the pillow was slightly crooked. As if his head had moved. Just a little. But enough. Clara swallowed hard. She looked at the monitor, normal heartbeat. She took a deep breath and moved closer. She took his hand and whispered, "Was that you? Did you move?" No answer. But the chill came again. And this time, stronger. While she made the bed and talked about the day, he was there, trapped in his own body, but awake. Or rather, conscious. Trying. Fighting. And every word she said was an anchor. Every gesture, a sign. Every laugh, a reason to keep trying. She didn't know, but he remembered everything. From the first day she walked into that room. The first time she adjusted the pillow. The first soft song. The first time she talked about herself. The tears. The confessions. The truths she never had the courage to tell anyone else. And he had heard everything. His name wasn't 144B. It was Leonardo Bastos. A name known to few, but feared in the corporate world. A discreet, reclusive businessman, but absurdly influential. It was said that Leonardo had businesses in more than 12 countries. Secret investments. Properties in the names of front men. An empire built with intelligence, discretion, and secrets. And it was precisely one of those secrets that landed him in that hospital. A few months before showing up there, Leonardo discovered that part of his board of directors was involved in million-dollar fraud. People he considered loyal. People close to him. And when he decided to confront them, he suffered a strange accident, a collision on the way to the airport. The driver disappeared, no trace of cameras. He survived, but fell into a state of conscious paralysis. His trusted team secretly admitted him to the hospital, fearing that public exposure would only put his life further at risk. The idea? To keep him off the radar until they sorted things out. But time passed. The world outside went on. And Leonardo stayed there. Trapped. Waiting. Watching. Listening. Until Clara. Over time, she became more than a nurse. She became the only person alive who treated him like a human being. The only one who had no interest. Who didn't know who he was, and because of that, connected with who he was. And that transformed him. Leonardo began to try to move. First his feet. Then his fingers. Small impulses. Almost always unsuccessful. But day after day, the stimuli increased. And the more Clara talked to him, the clearer his mind became. She was, without knowing it, his most effective treatment. It was on a Thursday afternoon that everything changed. Clara entered the room as usual. But that day was different. She was nervous. Anxious. And she didn't expect anyone to hear what she was about to say. But she said it. Today the hospital director called me. He made me a strange offer. He said he could promote me. Increase my salary. But, in exchange, he asked me to stop taking care of you. He said they're going to transfer this room to a new wing. He covered it up well. But I could sense it. Something's wrong. She sat down next to him. She squeezed his hand. I know it sounds crazy. That I'm getting too attached. But I trust you. Even if you don't say anything. Even if you don't listen to me. I know you're here. That was when he managed it. A stronger impulse. His hand, which had been motionless, squeezed back. Just a little. But enough for her to notice. Clara froze. Her eyes widened. The silence in the room was broken in an instant. You squeezed my hand, she whispered. He tried again. A second squeeze. Clara got up so fast that her chair fell backward. She ran down the hall screaming for help. Within minutes, the medical team stormed into the room. Tests were done. Signs confirmed. Leonardo Bastos was responding. A miracle, they said. But they didn't know what he knew. Or what he had heard. Days passed. The reactions increased. He began to open his eyes slowly. Move his neck. Try to speak. The team celebrated. But what he wanted was Clara. On the first day he was able to move his lips, he whispered just one word, Clara. She was in the break room when a nurse came running to get her. He spoke. He said your name. She entered the room, trembling, and when her eyes met his for the first time, she felt the world stop. You're really here, he whispered. She cried. She touched his face. Did you hear me all this time? He blinked slowly. Everything. Clara sat down next to the bed, and at that moment, an invisible connection formed between them. But around them, danger was approaching. Because now that Leonardo was back, he had to face those who had betrayed him. And he knew where to start. But before making any moves, he had to make sure Clara was safe. Because if anyone found out about her role in his recovery, she would be in danger. And he wouldn't allow that. If you're here now, it's because you felt the weight of the truth growing with each scene. So before I tell you how this story ends, and what Leonardo revealed when he finally managed to speak, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell, because the next stories coming up aren't just good, they're necessary. Here you hear what no one else has the courage to tell. Click there. And hold on. Clara couldn't sleep that night. After hearing the word everything from his mouth, or rather, seeing it struggle to come out of his lips, she understood that something had truly changed. It was no longer an emotional connection, nor an illusion of closeness. He was there. Awake. Aware. And he had heard every word, every secret, every pain she thought she had poured out into the void. In the days that followed, Leonardo slowly gained mobility. First his eyes, then his head, then some movements with his fingers. His voice was weak, scratchy, but it was coming back. He didn't receive visitors, by choice. The doctors thought it was a normal rehabilitation process. But Clara, she was beginning to suspect something. On a cloudy morning, Clara entered the room with her notebook. It was her habit to write down his heart rate, temperature, and progress. But before she could even look at the monitor, his voice, still low, came out more clearly for the first time. They think I don't remember, but I remember everything. She turned, her eyes wide. He stared at her intently. There was a seriousness in his gaze that hadn't been there before. Oh wait. Clara. I need you to trust me. Of course I trust you. Since day one. He made an effort to sit up a little higher in bed. He had to tell her everything, now. I was betrayed. By people close to me. Partners. People I had known since I was a child. They planned my downfall. When they found out I knew, they made it look like an accident. And since then, they've kept me in the dark. She was silent. Trying to digest it. But I was awake. Trapped in here. I saw a lot of people come and go. Nurses. Lawyers. A lot of people lying around my bed. He held her hand. You were the only one who didn't lie. At that moment, Clara understood. It was no longer just a story about recovery. It was about justice. About risk. And about loyalty. Behind the scenes, Leonardo had already taken the first steps with the help of a trusted old friend, the only one who wasn't involved in the coup. A discreet retired lawyer who came to the hospital disguised as a volunteer. Together, they devised a strategy. Leonardo needed to regain control of his identity, his documents, his companies, and at the same time keep it a secret until he had enough evidence to incriminate those responsible. And for that, he needed Clara. You're leaving the hospital, he said. Today. What do you mean? You're going to receive a transfer offer to another unit. They'll pretend it's a promotion. Don't accept it. They'll try to get you away from me because they know you're the link they don't control. She hesitated. But something in his voice, even though it was weak, was definitive. At the end of the day, as expected, the hospital management called Clara. They offered her a position at a new clinical center, with a higher salary, benefits, and lighter hours. It all seemed too good to be true. She refused. And at that moment, she understood that she was really involved in something bigger. The next day, when she returned to her room, the atmosphere was more tense. Leonardo greeted her with an envelope. Inside was a flash drive and a letter. What's this? My old will. And the new power of attorney. I'm naming you as my temporary attorney. You'll use this if I disappear or if they try to take me away from here by force. She trembled as she held the papers. Not out of fear. But because of the weight of the responsibility. That night, she cried alone in her room. Not out of sadness, but because she understood that she was facing something that would change the course of her life. In the days that followed, Leonardo improved faster than expected. His test results impressed the doctors. He was already sitting up, moving his arms, and speaking in short sentences. He was beginning to regain control of the body that had previously held him captive. At the same time, he was preparing for the big turnaround. Clara began to accompany him outside the hospital, to discreet physical therapy sessions at a private clinic. He moved with difficulty, but with focus. And in one of these sessions, he revealed his final plan. They think they destroyed my life. But I'm going to get everything back. And when that happens, I want you by my side. Not just as a nurse, but as the only person who really saw me when no one else did. Clara was speechless. She never expected recognition. She never sought reward. But she knew, right then and there, that she was part of something much bigger. On a quiet Saturday, Leonardo asked her to take him to the clinic's balcony. She helped him sit in a wheelchair. And with the view of the city before him, he said, "It's time." The next day, he appeared live on an online broadcast. The internet went crazy. The businessman who had been clinically absent for months suddenly appeared, talking, alive, lucid. He told part of the truth. Enough to cause the scandal he needed. But the rest, he kept to himself. He didn't reveal any names. Or any details. Because that would come later. Clara was seen by his side. Discreet. But present. In the days that followed, the newspapers speculated. Companies fell on the stock market. Directors disappeared from their social media accounts. Offices fell silent. Something was coming. And no one knew when, or how, the second part would be revealed. Today, Leonardo lives in seclusion. Still recovering. But active, behind the scenes. Clara. She no longer works at the hospital. With his support, she started an NGO focused on caring for patients who, like Leonardo, live in a state of hidden consciousness and are treated as if they were empty. The foundation is called Vivir no Silencio, Hear in Silence. It serves families, doctors, caregivers. It teaches that touch, presence, words, can save someone without us even realizing it. She never asked for anything. But she gained everything. And one detail catches the eye of those who visit the foundation. At the entrance, there is a bronze plaque with a phrase. She thought he couldn't hear her, but he did. This story is not about luck. Nor is it a miracle. It's about truth. About presence. About what happens when we believe, even without any guarantees. And if you want to see what happens next, because yes, this story isn't over yet, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the next video will tell you what Leonardo did with the names that were in the old will. And what Clara discovered later, when she received the recording from room 144B, a recording that should never have existed.